Welcome! In this episode, we discuss traditional Zambian roles and also speak to a therapist.
I think somebody said, it starts from the home and then it goes bigger and bigger and bigger. So for there to be change, it has to start from the individual, and there also has to be a desire to change. So definitely, if one person starts with the change in their home and then they're teaching the next generation something, self-care, love, self-love, and just really enforcing their identity in a positive way, then it continues to multiply and multiply. It's not easy because learning traumas is also painful. When you have to sit with yourself and go through the motions of thinking about, what were the things that you thought defined you, what were the things that you defined as success. I think, Muma, what you're talking about is this sort of like idea of this is what success looks like. And for me, I find a lot of people, they end up being, well, I don't want to say clinically depressed, but in some form or way, they're depressed because they haven't reached that success which was expected by the culture, and then they don't know how to move forward. So to be able to define for yourself what is success and not be looking outwards at what somebody else's success is. And again, it comes down to also comparison. I think in African culture, we're very much into comparing. Oh, those people, they do this. Oh, because that one started that business, even me, I'm going to start this business. There's always comparison in everything that we're doing. So I think one of the things that needs to be taken out of the conversation in terms of your own personal health and mental state is, one, stop comparing yourself. Define for yourself what makes you happy, what your success looks like. For me, it's a continuous journey and it changes over time, but it can be different for somebody else. And yeah, I think that's my comment. So, but it has a ripple effect. So, there may be young women or young people that look up to me and say, oh, okay, this is how she does this, or possibly I could be mentoring somebody, and that has a ripple effect to then keep it spreading and spreading. So it moves from the individual to the home to the community to the nation. And unfortunately, I guess it would take a bit of time for us to actually see that significant change, but then we have to start from somewhere. There has to be a desire to want to change things. And I feel like this type of conversation is great because then we are talking about such things.
Just letting people know we've reached that 1 hour mark. Yes, we're sorry. However, I've seen a lot of questions in the comments box.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys want us to answer the questions right at the end or right about now? Panelists, what do you think? Do you still have like 15 minutes? Shall we ask the questions at the end once we've finished all the questions? Yeah, okay. So Chulu's gonna go on to the next question.
Okay. So
I just want to say, sorry, Izzy.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just say a couple of things about? Yeah. So I just wanted to say something about conflation, which happens a lot in our culture, where we confuse ideas of things. For example, we've made a lot of reference to Christianity and how Christianity is kind of held up as a framework of, the values of what a good Zambian woman in this context should be, right? But nobody ever questions the same Christianity, like, where it's something that we just accepted from our parents and our parents have accepted from their parents. And when you dig further, it was introduced to them by colonialists. And those colonialists introduced it so they could control them, right? You know, and through this trauma, I don't think we've ever taken time to actually dissect and understand how that has mutated into so many conflicting things that at the baseline doesn't actually mean what it is. And we continue to act off of those same ideas that are already confused. So of course it's going to mess us up and not make us understand what we're doing. So we really need to be able, even like when people are talking to us and saying things, because I've developed this thing where people say to me things, and all I just hear is, you know, you're spewing colonial, you know, narratives. That is not right. You know what I mean? Because I'm able to dissect it, and I'm able to know that you don't even know that you can say that can affect me.
Samba, how did you get to that conclusion, though?
And then the second, it's because of understanding the different narratives, right? So as opposed to just understanding that Christianity is the only way and the right way, you know, you take the courage to step outside of that. Like, what if? Like, what if there's something else apart from this imagined order of Christianity and being this way? And what does it look like? You know, and I think as a result of that, it's small, but I think we've started to see a number of people, especially women, who are kind of like defying that. I mean, if I listen to Stu, Kwase, even yourself, Chulu, like it's, I mean, I'm also not married. Like, I laugh because I go to because I might be removed.
The tagline at the end of this. Yeah.
But you know, they have these kind of like meetings where like the trajectory seems to be like, you know, finish school, get a job, get married, have children, I don't know, build a house, something like that. So I'm just like, and then they asked whether I wanted to be part of this fellowship. And I was like, I'm sorry, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do in this fellowship, because that trajectory is not a trajectory I'm interested in. You know, I started work when I was my career started when I was 21 years old. I adopted 2 kids when I was 20, so I already have children. I turned down 2 marriages. I love living alone, and I love my culture. I don't find it as a conflict between Christianity and who I am. So if I have to be in that meeting and follow that trajectory, I won't manage, you know, and I'm fine. I don't have a problem with not being a part of that, but I understand that this is my own trajectory and that's who I want to be. And I'm happy and good with that. And I've found so many other people who are like that, whether it's women, men, you know, whether it's in Zambia, outside Zambia. So there is hope. I think there is a collective that's growing, and we just need to nurture that and be courageous enough to stand up against it.
Wow, deep. I'm so happy to be in this conversation. It just makes, look at my cheeks, they're hurting from smiling. It makes me so happy because, do you know what? Wait, this is being recorded and obviously we're going to share it. I just feel that there's a Zambian youth out there who's been given a whole different view of what life should be. And it would be just amazing to them to find that there's a Zambian feminist, there's a Zambian artist, a Zambian media personality who's just completely went left from whatever society told them. There's a lady like Chulu who's just done the complete opposite. And the point is not that we just want to be going against the rules because we're baddies, because we want to just be ourselves. Why can't people just allow us to be who we are? Simple. It's amazing. Love it.
So I guess the next question flows pretty well. How much do you think Zambian women have moved away from societal norms today?
Can I start?
Yeah.
Yes.
Not enough. Okay, we have made some progress. There's, like Samba mentioned, like there's a whole lot of people who are living differently, who choose to exist outside of the norm that has been set for us. But anyway, there's still, I think we still have a long way to go, because there's still so many people who are stuck on the old way, the old ways of living and thinking. And so, yeah, we have made some progress. I think a lot of women are moving away from that, but there's still so many, like there's still so much learning and unlearning that needs to be done. We have quite a long way to go, but I do have hope still. Yeah.
Oh.
You?
I was laughing at the hope. Yeah, for me, I agree with Nukwase, because I just feel that I've been privileged over the past few years to meet a lot of women who go beyond or against, I don't know, the status quo. And they literally defy the rules by breathing. And it can be in regards to how they dress, how they talk, who they choose to love, what they like to indulge in, or whatever interests they have. There are so many, an emerging group of Zambian women that I get so much inspiration from. My greatest fear getting older was that someone would one day tell me that my life is a phase. Like, whatever I'm into, whatever I like, or whatever I enjoy, it's a phase that one day I will be too old and I will not do these things. And here I am, I turn 32 in a month, and sometimes I would sit with my partner and I would ask him, like, are we doing stupid, childish things? Or, should we have grown up? When I envisioned being an older woman, I legit did not imagine myself. I imagined someone whose society had finally beaten the crap out of. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear. I imagined someone whose society had finally beaten the crap out of, that you reach a stage where you are conforming. But the older I get, the more those bad manners I had when I was at 25 are growing up with me. And I am defiantly choosing to wear this as my coat of many colors, as my personalities. And there are many other women who are also doing that. But most men, for instance, when they talk about how the world has changed, there's so many women in power, for instance, or many women in high positions that women have finally sat at the table, then they always go on to name these women. I always think that is wrong, because if women have been doing something right and we finally have a seat, you should not be able to name 5 of us only.
Yeah,
you should be able to fail to name us, because we are in each and every sector. But if you can name 5 women out of 400 men, it means we're not doing anything. We still have to keep pushing. It's the same with girls or women right now being told that, oh, we are the new generation. If you can count the Nukwases, the Sambas, the Stumbekos in this world, that means we're still not enough, because we should not be at the stage of pioneering. We should be at the stage where we have to now start living these truths. We should not be taken as examples of what life should be, because this country has been around for a long time. So we still need so many women, so many Zambian women, because I sometimes feel like I have friends who are feminists, but they're feminist light. They're like that weak on Facebook where they believe, but they understand, but like we have one foot on the ground and we still have parts of us in the water, because we are afraid to really go all out, because we're afraid that they will come for us and they'll ask us all these questions. So I feel that we are there. There are so many women who are taking up spaces, but we're still not enough. And just to sum it up, as much as we always have this emphasis of always blaming men about things that are wrong in our societies, women are the gatekeepers of the patriarchy. We are not also in the forefront asking, challenging other women. Like when the people who teach us all these, not all tradition is bad, I 100% believe that. But the people who teach us some of these cultural practices that should be frowned upon are not men, but women. No man has dare ever liked to find out whether I have malepe or not, but you will get such questions from women. They are the same women in our society are the ones who are trying to box us. They are trying to beat us into versions of themselves that they should be right. You know, you find someone who is as outspoken as me, come kitchen party, there you are just crawling with the kamakoti, trying to appease the ancestors, trying to appease your new relatives, you're almost getting burnt. You forgot that you put your sanitizer that is highly flammable on your body. You are there trying to bebesha the mulilo because we feel that should be presented to the world when it is not who we are. I feel that in the words of that famous philosopher from Barbados, Robin Rihanna Fenty, if you see your friend not doing something, tell them to pull up. That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Sorry, again.
It's that she was talking about Rihanna, the musician.
I have one small point to add to what Stu said.
Please.
There's some. I had a conversation last year at my show with some Asian woman. So she came up to me and she asked me. She was like, "Is it true that African women are yes women?" And I was like, "Yes, we are." Because like what you said, Stu, you can be this bad, this power to the women kind of feminist, but then when it comes, like when push comes to shove, when your auntie or your grandmother or your mother tells you, "No, Stu, you have to kunkula," you are going to do, but it's something that goes against who you are. You don't want to do it, but because you are a yes woman, it's something that has been ingrained into us because we feel like if we say no, we will be labeled as bad girls or bad women. So we it's something that's been beaten into us. Like we should be pleasing to everyone. We should put everyone else above ourselves. And for me, that's really sad. Yeah.
Samba.
Samba, yeah. You're on mute.
You're on mute. You're muted.
I think my point is I agree with everyone and what they're saying. The experience for women in Zambia and the expectations, what they're expected to do, and how they conform, the constant compulsion to conform to what is expected of you is more often seen, I guess, in Zambia and Africa than maybe elsewhere. But it is kind of like a universal state for women, That's why the Me Too movement kind of was like very strong, because it's like, okay, now we need to stop this. Now we need to allow women to be who they want to be. But speaking particularly about Zambia, I mean, the more of us, stand up to it, the more it becomes normal. The more we can start redefining, the lens with which this is viewed, what a woman should do, what a woman shouldn't do. And also understanding the context, because I think that is also sometimes confused of why things were done. If this doesn't make sense in this context and only made sense 200 years ago in a village somewhere, why are we still doing it, So I think it's understanding that and allowing for these conversations to happen, which I don't think happen often enough. The why.
I agree. Steep. Steep.
Just real quickly, Samba is going to have to leave us in a few minutes, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate your contribution and wisdom, and we hope that we can continue these conversations even after this, because it's not just today that we should be speaking about it, but
yes, I'm so sorry I have to leave.
okay.
Can we share any details about yourself with others who may want to know more about your work, like the Women's Museum website? Can we share that? Or Kuatenga Media, if there's any information.
Okay.
You can to us and we can share what you want to
what
know.
I can do, yes, I can put some links in the chat for the Leading Ladies podcast. For those who haven't seen it, it was really an exploration of us questioning this idea of inability of women to do things. We've been told over and over again that the idea of women being capable was introduced to us in kind of like a westernized knowledge way. But actually, we had this knowledge even before colonialism came, and it was removed. So what we did is actually explored and discovered, you know, women who are generals, women who are scientists, women who are inventors, women who are warriors, and lived within our time, like within 300, 200 years ago. And all that knowledge has been lost. And it's some of the conversation that we're having now where we're saying, you know, a woman can't do this and a woman can't do that. Like, but what do you mean? That was already there, and it was a part of our culture. You know, what we should be questioning is why we don't have that knowledge, why we don't know that we were those women, you know, and how do we get that knowledge back so that it's normalized and a part of us. So that's kind of what the main idea of the Women's History Museum is. Some of the things that we're doing now, we just got a grant to set up a digital platform to restore digital objects from Western museums and kind of like allow them accessibility for Zambians and Africans. And, you know, so it's all part of this process of interrogating the idea of what knowledge is viable, what knowledge is beneficial for us, and how we can apply it. So I'll just quickly place in the link, you know, our website and our social media handles, and also what else? And the link to the YouTube so that you can have a look at it. And I'll put my email there. If you want to contact me, anyone can contact me. I'm pretty responsive. And I like to connect with people and learn things every day, because this is where all these ideas come from, actually. So it's been really amazing listening to all of you, Stu, Nukwase, Muma, even with you, with everything, Chulu, and really interesting questions as well, because I've been looking at all the questions. I'm like, yeah, those are interesting questions. And I'm gonna log in later so that I can hear some of the answers for them, because I think they're quite pertinent and important. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll keep in touch. I'm just going to put the contacts now.
Thank you so much for joining the conversation. Other people, don't leave yet, because we've got another like 15 minutes of this. And at the end of it, we want to answer all the questions you guys have written in the below box. So please don't leave. We know you want to go and eat your food. You can eat if you want.
Yeah,
don't judge, you know. You can even have your drink. Look, I'm having a drink. I'm gonna speak up. This is not water. This is a G&T, and I did have the tomato. I used the tomato. This is not, you know, just to be fancy. But we're grateful for you guys all to join the conversation. Let me just shout out people: Manga, Annie, Gladys, Lengwe, Michelle, Chico, Bev. Like, we're really grateful for you guys joining our conversation. And at the end of this, share this, because just imagine how many Zambians need to hear this, or how many women or other people who are feeling the exact same way we're feeling in this conversation. They need to hear that there's more than just one way of thinking. Honestly, for me, that's probably most pertinent than anything. When the realization hit that the way you are taught to think is not the only way. There's actually 500 ways of thinking, and you have the right to choose which one you want. How amazing is that? So powerful as well. When you get that power to realize that you can choose where you want to go, it's just everything.
Stu, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to add on to what Samba was saying earlier. I think like for people like me who are outspoken and we want to change or challenge the narrative, the most important thing that people have to do is we have to get into this tradition of reading and researching and understanding, because like I'll probably get murdered for this, but I know some people who are, I don't care, I'm already dead, I'm in the bush. I don't like, you get some people like some like feminists, for instance, who are so quick to chant all these feminist affirmative words, you know, like men are trash or patriarchy. But then you really sit down and you realize that they don't understand it, or they don't understand what they're talking about. And then they cause more harm than good, because they'll then go around trying to defend their answers with very little knowledge, or with what I would call intelligent ignorance, where you sound nice, you have the language, you have the colorful words, but you do not have the knowledge to back up your points. And we should avoid trying to change traditional practices and cultures if we do not have the points to back up our answers or our reasons against something. What I'm trying to say is that these, like, you can't I don't know if it's untangle, you can't untangle the minds of people in one conversation using one conversation. There's no one who's going to wake up and say, this changed my life and I'm not going to be anti this or anti that over one conversation. It takes you taking your time, explaining, getting out of the defensive mode and getting your knowledge together. Like, people fail, for instance, urban activists. I'm an activist. I have a full-time job, but I call myself an activist. The biggest problem that we African activists, we women who are knowledgeable or learned, have is that we believe that what we know from the city is going to apply to the rural area. We have to first of all recognize, as Black women, even on this panel, educated Black women, we have a privilege that 60% of other women in this country do not have. That means that what we feel has to be done is difficult to challenge when majority of Zambian women are still living under the same cloud of ignorance they've lived in for a long time. You can't just come and say no without providing actual perspective. I've read someone say perspective into what is happening. We should not just feel that because we have acquired this knowledge or we speak a certain way that our ideas are right. As much as we are quick to abash and blame our culture and tradition, we also have to literally take a step back and figure out how we can positively then use this influence and privilege to better the lives of others, so that this generational trauma does not continue to the next. And we have to be learned and smart enough to understand what it is.
I agree. Oh, preach. That was deep.
Yeah. Can I just add to that? I think in as much as we should research and read, a lot of what our culture is also passed down with oral traditions. So then it's like, where do I get the information? And I think we should be brave enough to have conversations with our grandparents, with Nachimbusas, whoever it is, but to also just approach them obviously respectfully and have these conversations, but then to put it down on paper so that others after us can then learn from what was in the past. Because I feel like so many things get lost in the oral traditions, and it's very important for us to begin to actually preserve it in a more tangible way.
Yeah. Can I just say on that, just a quick one? I completely agree with what you've just said, Chulu, because for me personally, my change began the moment I started speaking to my grandfather, my mother's father. And I can even like trace back when the realization or the awakening happened within me, where I felt so free to ask questions that I would normally be considered, they would be considered as taboo. Like, don't ask questions about relationships. You know how it is. It's a bit weird to ask your grandfather as a girl. Questions about relationships, it's weird because then there's so many other bits in a relationship that like sex and things like that. Like it's weird. You can't ask your grandparent that. But I had such conversations, and it's other people will not think it's, you know, it's acceptable because it's our culture, but that is where the awakening began. And I agree with you, like, you know, tradition plays a very big role. This whole conversation is not about bashing Zambian tradition. In my opinion, I've always said that I feel original Zambian tradition probably was not as bad as we've created today. And that's also another aspect, the reality that tradition is actually fluid and dynamic. Zambians, or many people, seem to think tradition is just one set thing, but there's no such thing. Tradition is dynamic, it moves as you go. So
Okay, so we have very little time left. I want to ask a surprise question for our panelists, and then we go into questions from our listeners. So the question is, what is your experience of having to seek out professional mental health help? What is your experience of having to seek out professional mental health help? Yeah, go ahead, Nukwase.
My experience has been mental health in Zambia. First of all, it's not taken seriously. Secondly, it's always attributed to demon possession. So I once had an aunt. She was extremely bipolar. Like she had the absolute worst bipolar you can ever imagine. And growing up, everyone knew that she had a legion of demons. It's only so like even there was a time, I think I was a teenager, and like some of the things that I do, because I do my own hair, and she used to do her own hair. So the fact that I was doing my hair like my auntie, my mom thought I was possessed. Like, and she actually took me for prayers. Because in her mind, she was just like, "Oh my God, this girl is crazy. She's possessed. Like my sister, I need to take her for prayers." But anyway, so it's only when I got to college and I studied a bit of psychology did I actually begin to understand that my aunt was actually really mentally ill. And it's unfortunate that she didn't get the help that she should have gotten. I think we could have done more for her, and it's just sad that even up to now people think she was possessed when in actual fact she was just really mentally ill. So there's stigma around mental health. There is superstition around mental health, and I think that we have such a long way to go, because even our mental health hospital, I don't think they can take in someone, say, who's got multiple personality disorder, for example, and treat them according to that ailment. They'll just sort of like bunch them in with everyone else who's got all other kinds of ailments. And as long as you, like, the moment you go to Chainama, you're just perceived to be a mad person and you're cancelled. Like, there is no getting help. That's the end. Like, you're doomed. That's your doom. And no one even cares to to want you to get better. It's like you're sentenced to that thing. And so like Samba said also before, a lot of Zambians need therapy. A lot of Zambians have a lot of mental issues, unresolved childhood trauma, and so many other things that are genetic, that have been passed down from generation to the next. And I think we really, really, really need to start taking mental health seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, deep. There's questions. I really can't wait to ask these questions. But Stu, what's your view of the last question, which was, what was the last question?
It's about mental health. Like, what is your experience of having to seek out professional mental health help?
I have no experience because a few years back I went through an attack, and it left me emotionally scarred to an extent, because when you're someone like me with a huge personality and I'm always the one cracking jokes, they think that a person like me cannot be depressed, or a person like me cannot be sad. And that means that they do not find any place where they can categorize me on the mental scale. If you just say the word Chinama, you know, people laugh. Or if you see, or if somebody talks about, oh, that person was a Chinama, there's this stigma of saying that they are not okay. So most people in our country are afraid of talking about mental issues because of the stigma around it, where they'll start saying you're not okay, you've got a couple of screws loose up in there, or you are just unstable. So you find that for me, access to getting mental help was difficult, because I don't know who said it, all the help is only found in the church. Mostly, I don't know about any government places where I can go. You know, you watch all these movies and they've got all these therapy sessions, but you call a therapist and you are given these ridiculous fees. You can't go for one session. You can't unbottle yourself in one session when you're starting with daddy issues. You're reaching to boyfriend issues, up to the age to food issues. You can't unbox everything you're going through in one session. That means mental health services are inaccessible to majority of Zambian people, including myself. I had to get over my own trauma, which maybe I'm afraid I haven't gotten over. Maybe I'm afraid that one day something will just click and I will just unrattle or fall to the ground. You know, it's small things like when you think of, for instance, maybe someone who attacked me. I still have up to this day a fear of men who wear glasses, especially dark-rimmed glasses, because I know that's what he was wearing. And I'm afraid to, like, if I see someone shopping and I just see the side, I freak out. Even up to now, I go into shops, like ShopRite, I see a man, I freak out, because I haven't been given the opportunity to really, like, unbottle that trauma or to face that. And I just don't want to be taken for prayers where someone will pray for me and say it shall be well, or someone will talk down at me, or they will belittle my experience to saying something as silly as, at least you are alive. So you find that when it comes to mental health and mental health services, it's difficult for most people to access them, because they're just not available, or they're just probably people who might not understand, you know? So at the end of the day, you find that we need more knowledge, we need more information. The goodness is that people are finally talking about it and making it look like, yes, we care, you know, that mental health is actually some sort of disease. But back in the day, we didn't have that. But we just need to find the right institutions so that we can now start guiding people to where they can go, you know?
Amazing. Can I just say, this has been a very, like, enlightening conversation, especially from a mental health perspective in Zambia. And Stu, thank you for your experience, because that's pretty much every Zambian's experience. They feel that they don't know who to go. Even if they do feel that they know that they need to go to therapy, they don't know who to go to. they think the prices are ridiculous. The reality is the average Zambian is not willing to spend 500 kwacha on one session of therapy when you can't even afford to buy food for 150. Let's be real, right? So I've done one better. I've had a conversation with somebody who happens to be a family relative, and I was telling them about what we want to do today, and I say to them, at a discounted price, would you be willing to offer therapy sessions? And would you be willing to be diverse in the way you're offering your therapy sessions? Like you can do Zoom video calls or personal conversations. She said yes. So what I'm going to do is at the end of this conversation on all platforms, I'm going to share her details, which she shared with me. And all the services will be discounted, and she's super qualified. So hopefully that helps somebody. I know it's not free, but I could try and push it, but I highly doubt. But you know, everybody's gotta eat. But yeah, but I think it's better than like the prices that people are being offered. So hopefully it helps somebody. And I'm gonna post other links. I have also, just to add, later in the week, this panel felt like a Zambian panel, but we felt that there should be more than just Zambians being spoken to about Africa Day, because we feel that our experience in Zambia is unique, but probably in Kenya and other countries are experiencing the same thing. So we're going to be interviewing other panelists. And tomorrow we have a Kenyan therapist and mental health practitioner. So we're going to record that and also share it again, because they've agreed to share. Anybody who's on this will be able to share it with their viewers. So hopefully that helps somebody as well. But, yeah.
So I think just to answer this particular question, I have sought out professional help multiple times. And I think the first time I was a bit resistant, and it wasn't in the country, it was outside of the country. So this was a service that was available on my at my university. And then the second time is I was attacked as well, and I had to look for some sort of help. So I went to YMCA and asked around and got some recommendations. So YMCA is one place that I looked at, but then I settled with at UNZA, the psychology department, and I'm not sure whether they still have a program running, but that's where I went. And at the time, I couldn't afford the fees, but my workplace was willing to pay those fees for me. So at least that was a relief. But you know, even now when I look at the costs, like one session, 750, and you're like, really? That's like groceries for a month, you know, like so many things, what I can do with that. So it really does feel that mental help, like from professionals, is for like the elite, you know. And I know that at UTH there's a department of counseling. But then I'm not too, because there's different types of counseling. There's social, like I don't want to say that, like I don't know the terms, but then sometimes, you know, if you've got something like you know, you're bipolar, and then somebody is used to talking to couples, that's not going to help you, you know. So even what is available and termed as affordable is not the right help for you. So yeah, it's a challenge.
Can I just say, Lengwe, this is in the comments, and I know we're going to talk about them later, but it goes to what you're saying. She says for her personal experience, there was a one-time registration fee at UTH, but all the rest of the therapy sessions are free. And this is not the first time I'm hearing this. I think last time I saw it on Facebook, it was like 300 or 350 or something, and then after that it's free. So if you feel that the therapy you need is kind of like long-term, it works out well if it's free and you're paying off a one-off fee, to be honest, don't you think?
Yeah.
So if you guys are somewhere in Lusaka, what we're going to do is we're going to research other places, because surely if Lusaka's doing it, Kitwe must be doing it somehow, somewhere. Because again, what I do believe is the lack of knowledge is also a problem. Maybe we just don't know, because you know what I mean, we haven't looked. So maybe it does exist. So let's not bet. It could be. I don't know.
I mean, it's our personal experience as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we can go to the questions. Do you know what? I think it'd be great to hear your voices. So if you can come off mute and then ask a question, you can ask, I think maybe ask a panelist specifically, and let's get like one, no, oh, like if everybody has a question, then that's great. But, you know, let's try maybe about 3 questions just to wrap up.
Gladys, are you on? Is Gladys on?
No, Gladys has left.
Oh, she asked, what do you mean by African and African, and how is it different from just woman or non-African? We'll answer her. Annie, are you on?
Annie's there.
Annie.
Nukwase, for the time being, do you have an answer?
For Gladys's question?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Why just African women or Zambian women as opposed to women is because our experiences as Zambian or African women are completely different to those of Western women. Yes, we may face similar kinds of oppression, but for us, our oppression is also inclined towards our skin color. Between me and a white woman, people treat me differently, not because I'm a woman, but because I'm a Black woman. And the white woman will be accorded a certain kind of respect or a different like treatment because she's a white woman. So we always need to highlight these things, that our struggles are very different because we are struggling against womanhood and also Blackness. Yeah. So we cannot take one and leave the other. We have to take these things because we carry them with us everywhere we go.
Preach.
I personally couldn't agree more, maybe because I feel that my experience is even more, it's even more so because I'm not in Zambia. Like I get to see that it's not even just about like Blackness anymore, because again, there's even levels to Blackness. There's British Black women. You get what I mean? There's British Black who are born in England. There's me. I was born in England, but never grew up in England, grew up in Africa. Then there's African women who've got parents who came from the Caribbean, but they were born here, you know, as in Black women. Then there's African women who migrated here. Then there's, you know, being born in Britain, but to my grandparents. So you've got two sides where when you're in the house, you're African. When you go out of the house, you're British. So you've got two confused ways of thinking. You know what I mean? So like, Blackness is very complex and womanhood is very complex. And sometimes I get that we have to talk about everybody's, but sometimes, just one sector needs to be talked about. Just one particular bit needs to be dealt with. And then the other people from Cameroon can deal with the Cameroonians. The other people from South Africa, this is why we felt that I think when we originally created it, we say just women. Then we realized actually on our panel, there's more Zambian women. Let's do a Zambian one. Then the next day we can do other ones as they go. So yeah. So Annie is Cameroonian. Annie, you're gonna come on our next panel. Annie, can you come onto take off your mute button, please, and come on and ask your question, because I don't want to ask it for you, please. Annie?
Oh,
I feel like singing like you know that Michael Jackson, Annie, are you with me? Are you with me, Annie? Okay, I need to be serious. I'm becoming Stu. This is what you do in your life. You sing. I'm starting to sing as well. Annie.
Yeah.
Annie,
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh yes, Annie.
Sorry. No,
Annie, can you tell people where you're from and just a little bit about yourself, please?
Yes. So I'm from Cameroon. So I was born in Cameroon. I've lived in the UK for over 25 years. Lost count. It's been a long time, but I totally resonate with what you were saying. At home, it's always been at home. You're in Cameroon, and then wherever you step out, you are where you are. So I actually didn't know or discover what it was like to be properly British until I left home. I went to college, and that's where I met Chulu. And then when I came to university, it was even more, because the school where we went to was international, but then when we got to university, it was heavily British. And I was like, oh, right, I really don't know what it's like to be British, actually. I have no idea. So I had to relearn how to be British. Yeah, and I'm just wondering, I think from any of you, because I've had this feeling, and I don't know if it's anything related to my Africanness or if I feel it even more because I am African, but did any of you ever feel like the need or the pressure to delay having children because of any experience that you know, as even as a rebellious thing, or you know, because I think that we have a timetable, and the timetable that I see most women is, if I haven't done it by 30, I need to panic and like marry someone super quick. So what are your views on that?
Super quick. Who's gonna go first?
You can take the question, one person, unfortunately. I'm trying to wrap this up.
Nukwase.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Nukwase, you're the chosen.
Okay, so I've held off having children for now, and the main reason why I've done that is because I want to make sure that when I do have a child, it's at a time when I am ready emotionally, physically, mentally, and financially. Children are such, they are such a huge responsibility, and I don't think people understand like the gravity of bringing a child into this world and being responsible for this person's life for the next 18 years. That's if you're lucky. Most people are responsible for their children till their 30s, sometimes others 40s. So it's like you really have to you have to be deliberate about it, and it's not for everyone.
Thank you for joining us on our latest episode. We look forward to having more discussions with you. Email us at africatmp@gmail.com.